Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. Our guest today, by way of Great Britain, is a wonderful man. He's got some wonderful music. If nothing else, Chris, I was going through your titles and some of your songs. My go-to decompression drink is a chocolate shake. So I see the title. I just had to go get one. And there's like 4 restaurants around here that have chocolate shakes. Sneaking out the front door, so he knows about my childhood. Top hat and tails, and I've never worn top hat or tails. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chris Standring. Chris, how are you today?
I'm very good, Darren. Nice to see you. It's good that we can do this.
Yes. My first question is: you're born and raised in Great Britain. How does And it's one of those things I never know what to call you guys. How does a Brit growing up over there get to love jazz?
Actually, that's a really good question because I lived in the sticks, right out in the middle of nowhere, on a farm in the middle of England. And as a child of the 60s, I had a little transistor radio like everybody else. And a music business that was coming out of London, but which was miles away from me. Basically, one radio station across the country, Radio 1. So it was very, very difficult. There was no real jazz radio at that time. We had BBC Radio 2, and all the jazz piano records my dad could buy, and that's probably where it came from. Initially, my father's record collection, which was minimal in the jazz sense, but he did love Oscar Peterson. He loved Dudley playing piano. He had a Tony Lee record. You probably don't even know Tony Lee was a jazz player in England, and a bunch of other things too. But I think that's probably where it started.
So here's my thing: you're growing up. Did you develop a love of jazz? Was it because of all the folks that you just mentioned that you came to like it? What was that process?
I started playing classical guitar. So I think the discipline of music came at a very early age. But I was listening to the one thing that was prevalent in England at the time was progressive rock music. So I fell in love with a band called Focus, a Dutch band, and a guitar player called Jan Akkerman, who was kind of a pseudo jazz guitar player, but kind of played in a rock band, I didn't quite know what it was, but because he was classically influenced and I was studying classical music, that resonated with me. So I think that was the initial thing that got me into experimental improvised music. And then I discovered Jeff Beck, who again was a rock guitar player with a beautiful touch. And then people like Larry Carlton and all the West Coast guys. And but they were all kind of, again, pseudo jazz guys. They were kind of fusion guys or rock guys with a jazziness to them. And I think once I went to music college and met a bunch of hardcore straight ahead guys, that's when the real jazz thing kicked in for me.
So who are your first American jazz musicians that you really, really like, really listen to?
Um, well, I went through kind of a Chet Baker phase, and Charlie Parker. I mean, Miles Davis, of course, Wynton Kelly, that whole swing era.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, once I could understand it, a guitar player called Pat Martino,
Yes.
um, and George Benson, Wes Montgomery, and I'm off to the races suddenly.
So then, as you're growing up and listening to this, you get to an age where you can kind of do your own thing.
Mm.
Did you stay in Great Britain, or what caused the migration to America?
Well, all the records I was listening to featured my favorite studio guitar players, and anything that was kind of an audiophile, high fidelity record, I was listening to the same guys playing on them. And I thought first of all, I wanted to visit the source, which was Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1980, when I was just 20 years old, I took a kind of a gap year from my school just to come out and do something else.
Right.
So I came out to LA and just got a job delivering sandwiches and doing the dishes, you know what I mean? Delivering pizzas, whatever I had to do at 20 years old. And I would go to this little club in North Hollywood called the Baked Potato,
Mm-hmm.
and see people like Steve Lukather, the Yellow Jackets, Larry Carlton, Robin Ford, all these young guys. I mean, they were young. I was
Yeah.
20. They were barely even 30, these guys, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think Larry was a little bit older. But and I saw these guys at the height of their careers, in this little club for $5. And you can imagine as a 20-year-old kid how that was a massive influence. And I even met Robin Ford, and he was sitting right behind me. And I asked him what I should do to be just like him.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Right.
said, because I told him I was going back to music college in London. He said, you should go and study and be the best you can be and put a band together and call all the best guys that you can in town and get known for being the band that everybody wants to play in. And if you can play, people will hire you. And it was an interesting conversation. I never forgot it, because that's exactly what I did. And I became a band leader. I didn't really become somebody that people called. I became the guy that everybody wanted to be in that band. And
Right.
interestingly enough, that's exactly what Robin Ford's ended up doing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying it was bad advice. It was the right advice for me.
Right.
But if I wanted to be a freelance guitar player, I'm not sure I would have heeded that advice anymore. Do you know what I mean? Or
Right. Yeah.
do it again. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just everybody's on their own little journey, and what works for somebody doesn't necessarily work for somebody else.
Right. What is somebody's plan is not necessarily your plan.
That's
But
it.
as long as you get the same results, um, you are where you are today because of those words from Robin Ford.
Mm.
And it's funny that you say that. Yellow Jackets. There were two people in the Yellow Jackets. One who I'm trying to hook up with once he comes here. But Ricky Lawson,
Yeah, I
Ricky
used to
Lawson
know.
and I were very good friends.
Yeah, me too.
There's a story of, and I have to stop telling stories on this show, but there's an outdoor facility here in Cleveland called Blossom Music Center, and the Yellow Jackets were playing on the show. And I got to know Ricky earlier than that. And next thing you know, he goes, "Come backstage." I, I, I'm not that guy. I'm the
Mm.
guy who likes to sit and just listen and enjoy the music. So I go backstage and I'm standing there and I'm talking to Ricky. And all of a sudden, this guy walks over and he's kind of listening to our conversation. Well, I'm that guy when everybody goes, "Who's that guy?"
Mm.
That's me. So
Mm.
it's me, Ricky, and this other guy. And that other guy is Branford Marcellus.
Mm.
And Branford just he's just he talks just like we've been friends for years.
Yeah.
Like, no. And then he goes, "Let's go sit on the side of the stage and watch the show." I go, "Are you serious?" He found some buckets, large buckets, turned them upside down, and my buddies who are on, if we're on and I don't know what it's called. If I'm on stage right, they're sitting stage left. And all of a sudden at the end of the show, they go, "Was that you sitting off to the side next to Ricky and
Mm.
Branford?" I go, "Yeah, Branford's like my new best friend now."
Mm.
Um, and it's funny. Jazz musicians, to me, are the friendliest artists that I know. And
Mm.
I've worked football, basketball, baseball, and done this stuff. But this, I sit back and I have, one day I'll write a book as I tell everybody else to write a book. But no, I'll write a book with everybody that I know that I have all these weird conversations with. So you go back, you get your education. You're the band. You're the guy that I want to play in your band because I know I'm going to get exposure, so forth and so on. And then at some point, you decide that you're going to. At what point did you move to America permanently?
Right. That happened February 91 after a few trips over here, kind of reconnaissance trips. I wanted to see if I could get something happening over here, because I'd spent that gap year over here for 9 months.
Right.
So I was trying to come back for many years, and this one time in 91, I decided to book some shows, about 5 shows in all the big clubs here in Los Angeles. And I booked all my favorite players that I've been listening to. And I just happened to get to know these guys. I don't know how I did it, but things happen over time, one thing leads to another. And I had booked 5 shows at all these clubs. And a friend of mine in London said to me, "Chris, you've got more gigs in LA right now than you've got here in London. Why are you coming back?" So I thought about that. And I woke up the following morning and I decided, that's it. I'm out of here.
Wow.
Moved to LA and I sold every tiny little thing you can think of that I owned in order to, put some money in the bag so I could come over here and set up again. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, it was a massively ambitious project because, at the time I wasn't really allowed to work. I had to go through that whole legal process of coming over here, which I did. Eventually became a citizen. It took 10 years, whatever it was, maybe more. Baby steps. I just thought, just do it. This is where I'm supposed to be, I think. And as soon as I came over here, I was welcomed with open arms, because I booked these shows and I made a bit of a splurge when I came over here. Mm-hmm. And of course, after that, crickets, for quite a long time. So I was like everybody else who moved here. However, I came with a bit of a splash, so people knew who I was. And it was a little bit easier to at least book more shows with my band and get that whole thing up and running, which I did.
Was there fear? What kept you going in doing that, considering you probably had a stronger following, you probably had a bit more comfortable place in London, and now you come here and it's scarce.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what kept you going? What made you stay?
I made it impossible for me to fail.
Okay. How do you do that? Because that's something we all want to do.
Right. Okay. So when I said I sold absolutely everything in London, I sold my car, my record player, my little effects pedals, guitars that I didn't need, anything that I could that I didn't need, I sold. So the point is, I got rid of my flat, my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
I made it impossible for me to go back. So if I failed, I had nothing to go back to. I mean, I had my parents, I'd go and live with them, but I wasn't going to do that age 31,
Right.
So I knew that the only way I could succeed here was if I made it impossible for me to return. Because it's too easy just to go, okay, I can just go back to London. So I can be a little fearless. I mean, didn't mean to say I'm not scared, but there was enough there, and I believed in myself. I had met a lot of friends who believed in me too, and I started making a little life for myself and did a little teaching and there was a couple of music schools here called a Musicians Institute and the Grove School of Music. I did a little sub-teaching there for some guys I got to know. And bit by bit, I managed to pay the rent. And before you know it, about 10 years later, I got on a tour called the Guitars and Saxes Tour. And I met these guys, Mark Antoine, Rick Braun, Peter White, and Kurt Whalum. And suddenly I was thrust into a world that made sense to me,
Mm-hmm.
And I got my own. I then got signed to a label in New York called Instinct, and I invited these guys to play on my record, so I had a little cachet, And before you know, I'm on the radio myself. I mean, it took a long, long time. It did not happen overnight, but we got there.
All right. Speaking of that, let's take a listen to a song. As we were talking before we started, some of your titles are very near and dear to me. This one is. This is Chocolate Shake. I now have a desire to go get one once we're done. But this is Chocolate Shake on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our guest Chris Standring. Chocolate Shake. I believe every person should have one. And if you don't have one, then you should listen to the song. And then the song will inspire you to go out and get a chocolate shake. Our guest today is Chris Standring. I'm Darrell Scott. This is the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Chris, those beginning years have got to be tough on your psyche, on your mental health, we'll call it. Why? I'll always go back to, and I think that's the thing that especially young musicians need to know, building up that fortitude, that willingness to fail, but to keep going. Where did you get that from? Is that from your parents? Is that just you?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Yeah. My father had a massive work ethic, but he was also a little bit deluded in some areas of business. He wasn't really a great businessman. He was in some areas, but not really. He was one of these guys where the idea was much more interesting than the marketing of it, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yes.
So he was a farmer and always dabbled in lots of other things. So he had a fantastic fascination for discovering new products and going to market and seeing what could be. And he was like a kid in a way. He was one of these guys that would watch these late night infomercials and be completely sold on it. You know what I mean? And go, oh,
yep.
That's the thing for me. And it was a sweet naivety, And I think I got a little bit of that from him, that fascination and the curiosity for business. My mother had her feet on the ground, so I think I got that from her. And of course, I was. God knows where the music thing came from. My father dabbled at the piano. My mother played little harp and a little bit of piano, but they weren't really that talented. But I stuck it out, So I think it's a difficult question to answer, really, because you are who you are, and
right.
who knows where it all comes from. But that's all I can tell you.
That's what is your inspiration is not necessarily my inspiration, but as long as it's inspiration is the only thing that really counts. What is it about being from London? What is it about this American jazz, as we'll call it? And there are many different levels and kinds and people, and whether it's straight ahead, fusion, contemporary, whatever it is. What was it about that made you want to play it?
I think initially it was from the heroes that did play it before me. You know, as I said, I was crazy about Pat Martino and George Benson, and Pat Metheny is another great hero of mine, especially as a writer as much as a player. They were doing everything that I thought I could do for some strange reason, knowing full well that I would never do it the way they were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's impossible. But I could take aspects that I loved and pour it into my own music and do my own thing with it. I think that's really it. Just, you know, for instance, if I was a Beatles fanatic, I might have ended up in a pop band, you know, or a songwriter. That wasn't the case. I mean, you know, as amazing as they are, I gravitated towards, you know, virtuoso guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was really into other instruments too, you know, crazy about Michael Brecker and Sanborn and, as I said, Chet Baker, you know, all these guys. But I think you are who you are, a result of your influences at the end of the day, if you're an artist.
I've always thought one of the greatest things would be I've always asked the question, you know, if you had front row center seats and you could assemble a band to watch, who would it be? But on the other hand, I'd love to have a Hollywood Bowl. Here we have Blossom Music Center, and have nothing but musicians in it, and just listen to your stories of how you got from point A to point B, of the influence, all of those things that go into being you, because the stories I've heard are tremendous.
Oh, I bet.
I don't. It is interesting what you all have to say, whether it's you know, getting instruments, playing with so and so, the 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 wherewithal to gather information. You know, if you're a fan of Pat Martino, is there a song of yours that you've done where I can hear the Pat Martino influence? And the answers are always, I don't get it, because number one, I'm not a musician. I'm the guy that's going to go, ladies and gentlemen, here's so and so. That's the extent of my musical stuff. But to hear your stories and your influence, and I think sometimes being in the presence of those people that you looked up to is very interesting. And I consider musicians geniuses. It's just me, because I'm not sure how many albums you've done, but it's more than 100 songs. Those are 100 songs that you have released, that you have given to the public. I'm sure there's another 500 songs that you have in a drawer that are not quite finished. It wasn't the right time. And to hear some of those things, or if I could get you all to go, look, we're going to have an all-star band. There's going to be 90 of you in the band. I just want to just do a song, and to hear what that is. I want to play a song. You've got a new record out. Talk about the new record real quick.
Well, it's called Time of Change, and it's my new record. Boy, I don't know what to say.
What is the inspiration of the new record? How many songs?
Okay,
we're going to play a song here in a minute.
11 songs, and the theme of the album is nostalgia, and it's probably because of the time, my age, you know, time of life. You start looking back on what you have done, you know, you start to reminisce about whether your golden years are behind you and what's in front of you and where you are in life, and, you know, deaths that are occurring and births, you know what I mean? And it's just an interesting time where you start to assess your entire life. So this album is very, very nostalgic. I mean, for me, I think it's nostalgic. I don't know if it would be to everybody else, but certainly when I listen to a few of these songs, it throws me back to memories of, you know, growing up listening to my heroes. And I can give you one example. There's a song called All the Good Times on this album. It's got a very somewhat Earth, Wind and Fire flavor about it. And it takes me
Wow.
back to a time of, in the 80s, when I used to listen to an album called Casino Lights, which was
Oh,
the Montreux Jazz Festival. Do you
right.
remember that record?
Sanborn,
That's it.
Yellow Jackets,
That's it. That
Al
record
Jarreau
there.
and Randy Crawford.
That's it. And
Yeah.
all those beautiful horn arrangements by Larry Williams. And when you hear this one song, All the Good Times, you might get a feeling for that whole record,
Mm-hmm.
because the instrumentation and the beautiful space in the arrangements. I mean, you might not, you know what I mean? But I certainly do. And that was a pivotal time in my career, going back. So, and also we're trying to move. I got married 2 years ago, so that's another big change in my life. So all these things have occurred and are occurring and have occurred. And
You got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on. Slow
yeah,
down.
yeah,
Slow
yeah.
down. Enjoy.
That's it.
What's the new single out? I don't have the title in front of me, but I have a question about it.
Yeah, it's called Hollywood Hustle.
Hollywood Hustle. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a listen to Hollywood Hustle. And if you get a chance to see the video, you'll understand the question I'm going to ask. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Hollywood Hustle on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our guest, Chris Standring. That's such a good song. Chris Standring on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Chris, we've watched the video. As I told you, I've watched it 120 times. That guy is you. And I know it's not because I'll try not to give it away, but it's, I sat there and I had to watch it over and over again because it's like, it looks like him, but it can't be him because him is older, but whatever. And that, I'll let you explain the reason why I thought it was really a different person. But you said it's AI.
Yeah,
And
it's AI.
is AI going to have a huge effect on music, you think?
I think it is having a huge effect. I mean, the capabilities, I mean, well, are we talking about audio or visual? I mean, well, both, really.
Both, yeah.
I mean, basically, AI is killing the music business and the movie making business. But I think if you're smart, you embrace it and you use it.
Try to use it to your benefit.
I think you have to, because it's not going away, you know, and it's getting better. That's the problem.
See, the thing I miss, I'm old. The thing I really miss is the fact that I'm of the era when all you musicians had to get, you flew into LA, you flew into wherever, you stayed at a hotel or somebody's house, and you went to the studio, and there's 5, 6, 7, 8 of you in the studio, and you can see the reaction of one musician, like on your song, and you go, "Oh, he's really knows it really sounds good. I got to step up and I got to do this, blah blah
Yeah,
blah."
that's it.
But now that you can be in London, you could lay down your tracks and then you ship it to me, and I kind of integrate it into what I've got. I think we miss that internal feeling, what I just call the good time stuff. Or even if something went bad, if somebody hit a bad note, you would know because it's your song. But I wouldn't. How fast can I get a turnaround on the fact if you're in London and it's over here?
I think I totally understand your point, and there is some truth in that. There's a lot of truth in that. But I also believe that there will be people drawn to musical instruments that find them fascinating. And just like me when I was young, couldn't put it down, became obsessive, and wanted to be all that it could be, you know. Those people are going to be much less and less as life goes on, because if you can do it with, the touch of a button, a lot of people are going to be put off and go, well, why do I need to do that? But as I said, it's if you have that fascination. I mean, right now there's extraordinary musicians coming out and simply sitting in their bedrooms filming themselves on YouTube.
Right.
I mean, they might be lacking in compositional sense and worldly experience, but boy, can they play their instruments.
Yeah. And then I don't know what I'm going to do with all the music in this room. Man. Chris, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Different time, but we are of the era of, I'm not going to say how old I think you are, but we're of the era of 78s, albums, 33 1/3, 45s, 8 tracks. I still remember Kevin Taylor putting the 8 track in my car. And now we're downloading music. I used to be able to get every week I'd get a box of 25 CDs of like your latest releases, and I could go and give them to somebody. Now you don't do that, and it's just weird. And I'm that if I have a thing with that, I'm having a problem getting used to. It's that kind of stuff. Greatly appreciate the time. This has been fun. Yeah. We will do it again. I reserve the right to be able to call you back. If you're in Cleveland, I'll find you. Yeah, we have some other things planned. I think musicians will like. Can't tell them all right now. Matter of fact, I have a call this afternoon about it, and we'll go from there. But you keep putting out the music. You keep making the music. You keep finding people who look like you. Because the greatest thing was when he's walking down I think it's walking down the street or walking the club, and all of a sudden it like flashes to you, and I'm like, seriously, it really was him. All right. I greatly appreciate this. How can our folks keep up with everything that you're doing?
Well, my website, chrisstandring.com. I'm on Facebook at StandringC. I'm also on Instagram, Chris Standring 1, I believe. But is that enough?
That's enough. It's whatever you want to tell us. It's because that's the other thing. We always had to wait for releases. Now I can go to your website. I can download your music. I can see this. I can see all stuff, whatever. But once again, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. He is Chris Standring. Some wonderful music. You got to go and check them out. As always, if you enjoy what we do here, if you enjoy this conversation, please subscribe. There's a whole bunch of people out there. A whole bunch of shows that we've done. I'd appreciate it if you would, become a subscriber, and you have your, you'll see the whole 125, 126 episodes that we've done, and this is just another one in the chain, and there's more to come. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will talk to you next week on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Thanks, Chris. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.